Thank you very much, Joe. And indeed, that game showing us that SKT can look at the same composition almost without Leona there on Najin's side and pretty much make it seemingly not work at all. Right out of picks and bans, Monty. How are you feeling about that game?
Well, I think this really shows the strength of SK Telecom to rebound and make those adjustments. We talk about how they typically lose the first 1 or 2 games of a best of 5, but the problem is once they get rolling, once they win 1 game, they usually win 3 in a row. So to come back for Najin Sword is a tall order. And what the adjustment that they made here that was very important is, I've talked about this before, but there aren't that many teams in the world that are comfortable with a solo Vayne split push.
Right.
And that is exactly what Piglet does. It's also what Mr. Doublelift likes to do, and it's a strategy that we have on CLG. If you can rely on your player to make plays, and Piglet also doing the heavy roam there, repeatedly shutting down Expression, this is just one of the characteristics of SK Telecom's playstyle. And I think you do have to question the delayed lane swap. Sword intentionally switched into those lanes, got behind early, and I know some of the fellow analysts here have some pretty strong feelings about that.
Yeah, one of the reasons that Sword couldn't react to the lane swap properly is because their duo lane was losing. They actually died in the 2v2. Both of them, both Prey and Kane died to Lee Sin, Renekton, which is a really devastating 2v2 jungle top lane combo. And it's no coincidence also that Sword has lost every game that they've gotten 2v1. In the Gambit series, the Gambit 2v1 them in the first game, they came back every time Sword 2v2s the enemy duo lane, they win. And that's because Prey is such a big part of Sword's playstyle. He needs to get fed, he needs to get ahead, and he can't really get ahead if he's 2v1ing. That means he's splitting even with the enemy AD.
Yeah, and actually one thing that played out there as well was you talked about Prey, but also Expression here, who's stuck in a 1v2 and had a really, really rough time of it, didn't get much jungle support. And the one thing that stood out to me was that SKT, I mean, granted Lee Sin, actually, yeah, in either case, they sent the Lee Sin to go gank for the Renekton, to have a 2 versus 2 matchup there. Instead of 3v1 diving and killing the turret off and breaking the lanes apart, they extended the laning phase. He supported his dying turret, got a kill, kept the lanes in a 1v2, and Expression got farther and farther and farther behind Impact.
See, I think this game came down to play and not to compositions, because I think both teams had the means to deal with each other, depending if they just played it right. We could see when SKT struggled a tiny bit getting that Nashor once they actually dropped the split pushing, and you could see that Sword's comp was actually pretty decent at dealing with them. I just think they completely got outplayed, and I really want to give props to Bengi here, because the way he plays his Lee Sin, gets an early lead, transition that in mobility boots, goes around the map, keeps ganking. There's a lot of vision control coming out from the entire SKT T1 team. Basically, that's what SKT T1 does. You give them a lead and they will strangle you to death with perfect vision control, really heavy roaming by the jungler, just snowballing the lanes one by one, and then just, yeah, good mechanics to top it off.
Bengi has been playing so well. He's part of SKT's first 5 kills. And even though he did that derp where he flashed into the enemy team and died because he thought he had a kick up, I mean, he's just been playing so well. He's been setting up these amazing insect plays where he kicks the enemy carry back in. I mean, you got to hand it to this guy. He makes SKT snowball the other game, gets every dragon.
And I actually want to give some credit to Najin Sword, because I know at the beginning of the series we talked about how the mid-game decision-making was going to be so much better for SKT, but we saw a mid-game victory in Game 1, and here I actually wanted to commend how Sword played the Baron dance at around 20 minutes or so, because fully blacked out vision, no one face-checked a Thresh Hook, and Sword actually chunked SKT off the Baron. A really good Gragas ultimate into Prey on the side, landing a bunch of poke damage as well, and took over map control on a unwarded Baron attempt. Then it's like, wow, that's really, really good mid-game play, good play calling.
This is something where Zyra actually excels at. The range she has on her seedlings makes it really easy for her to get mini wards into brushes she otherwise couldn't get into. The same way she can hide behind the plants, she will pop out of those seeds to dodge possible fresh hooks. So the Zyra really helps, especially with Gragas as well, being the long range disengage in case somebody does get caught, like Watch, who then has a repel. So Baron Dance definitely wasn't the answer for SKT T1. The split push, as Monty pointed out, with Renekton being in a lead and Vayne being able to individually split push as well, probably was the way to get the chokehold onto Sword.
And with a little bit longer to go over this, I definitely want to touch on a point, Crapo, that you brought up during the quarterfinals and within that game, and it's behavior in the lane, playing with or without your jungler there and kind of faking out the other team. How were they, putting that forward within their lanes?
So when I was watching Prey and Kane 2v2 against Renekton and Lee Sin, they're both level 2. Okay, this Lee Sin is level 4 with double buffs, and he walks in and they play like he's not there, or sorry, they play like they don't care if he goes on them. And to me, I'm like, they're playing as if Elise is there. And I don't really have the replay to pull up, but they played so disrespectful of him that he actually didn't go in on the Zyra. He's like, oh my god, Elise is here, they're trying to bait me. And it's like this next level mind game that they played. In the end, I was like, actually, they're actually playing kind of dumb. And they both died because they played so far up. But yeah, there's a lot of like lane behavior things that trigger like, oh, the jungler is here. They're playing aggressively. I shouldn't do this.
All right, well, we'll see if the mind games continue as well with the baits and everything else that goes along with it. Right now, while the teams take a breather before Game 3, it's the perfect time to check out the best responses to tonight's Twitter question. Earlier, we asked you, all of you, how has the World Championship influenced the way you play League of Legends and why? And here